Hello everyone and welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you, except it's the TM take, the Mucky take, but there's a slight change of plans. It's the Grand Admiral Mucky take tonight, baby. I'm your host, Mucky, and tonight I'm joined by two very special guests. I'll start off with the legend on the right. He has been one of my best mates ever since I first started working at your local Pack and Save. I don't know how it started, but I remember asking him to cover my shift so I can go to a U2 concert. And he said yes straight away. And ever since, it's blossomed into a very beautiful friendship. It is Darth Adam. Adam, how are you?
Amazing, yeah.
Just amazing.
I forgot about the U2 thing. U2, do you like U2?
I love U2. U2 is my favorite band.
Oh,
You're not a U2 fan.
nah.
Rip Adam. All right, our friendship is just done. Anyways,
okay. We don't need that.
And we're also joined by another very great friend, which I met him through Adam, but it feels like I've known him my whole life. It is the Jedi Master Harry. Harry, how are you, bro?
Yes, very good, very good. Keen to start talking about Star Wars clips and Ahsoka.
Yeah. No, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on to talk about Ahsoka with me. Star Wars has been something I've wanted to talk about so long, but Chris has always been like, nah, we're all about, reality TV. But the Wheel of Time on our channel, I'm not sure if you guys have seen that show, but it's been doing extremely well. And he's podcasting about it. The podcast has been doing well. So he gave me an opportunity to talk about Star Wars. And you two were the first two people I really wanted to chat to. So thank you very much for you both for coming on.
Thank you for having us, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess just to kick things off, Adam, what is your history with Star Wars? What sort of made you to be a big fan?
I think my dad introduced me to Star Wars really young, at maybe 6 or 7 years of age. Started watching Star Wars, and it just kind of stuck, especially when the Clone Wars came out. That was perfect timing in my childhood to come home from school and watch Clone Wars. And it's got plenty of seasons, plenty of episodes to watch, so that really filled up my time. And then they released the new stuff, which I have mixed feelings about, but it's a continuation of my childhood, so I'm still largely supportive of it. But it's not it's not the greatest. But we make do with what we've got.
It is quite interesting, how I feel like it's hard to get into Star Wars as an adult, but as a kid, it's so easy to get into it because you've got like the lightsaber fights, which is it's just cool to watch. You've got the star battles and everything, and it's quite, especially the original trilogy, is quite a basic story, but it's so easy to love.
I think Lego helped.
Oh yeah,
Lego Star Wars. I think also because I was a big Lego fan as a kid as well. So when those two cross paths, it was big time over. I'm spending lots of money on $1 billion Star Wars franchise buying Legos.
Yeah, no, I love Legos. I would get back into it, but it's too expensive.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too.
How about you, Harry? What is your experience with Star Wars? How did you sort of get into the franchise?
So I was more family watching the movies at like Christmas and watching the trilogies as like a run with the family. And it was more for me, it was more playing again with the Lego Star Wars games. Oh, so good quality games. I love the Lego Star Wars games. They were so good. But I didn't really watch the Clone Wars or any of that. More into the movies, not the new ones, not the Rey ones. Not so into those ones.
It's quite funny how I feel like for a while it was always the original trilogy against the prequel trilogy, but now both sides have just come together to just crap on the
hate on the trilogy.
It's like the clip from Ted where the two guys are like screaming, and they're like above each other in the apartments, and then that lady comes and they start screaming. Well, look, Ahsoka has wrapped up this week, all 8 episodes. We'll do a bit of a non-spoiler section. So for those who haven't seen Ahsoka yet, you can kind of get a brief taste of what Ahsoka is like, and then you can come back later once you've seen the series to check out our more spoiler content. But Harry, you quite literally just recently finished watching
Yes, yes, I did
Ahsoka.
recently.
What's your thoughts on the show as a whole?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Some of the CG was a bit iffy in some parts, but overall I thought it was fine. The cinematography was fine. I had some issues with some of the characters because I haven't seen the Clone Wars, so I thought, oh, this character seems a bit useless. But obviously, I don't have that history to tell me that that character is actually important.
Yeah.
But just from watching just the new series Ahsoka by itself, I did have some questions about it.
Yeah. And how about you, Adam? I know that you're a massive Clone Wars fan, and Ahsoka is one of the biggest characters from the Clone Wars series. So, do you feel like the show lived up to the hype of the continuation of her story?
No.
No.
I don't. No, I don't really think so at all. No. It's okay. I think actually one thing I really disliked about their portrayal of Ahsoka, it's kind of more of the choreography of the lightsaber battles. I liked how they went. I liked how they played out. I disliked the way Ahsoka kind of looked, though. She seemed a bit sluggish, and I feel like in the Clone Wars she was always known as being a very agile, quick, fast Jedi, and then in this she's she's older, but she seems sluggish, and I thought that was a bit of a letdown. I liked her more in the Clone Wars, definitely. But of the overall series, I'd probably give it a pretty average rating.
Average.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I personally thought it was a great show. I'm someone who has been a bit disappointed from some of the Star Wars shows previously. I feel like Mando season 3 was a wee bit of a disaster with nothing, literally the final episode. The Book of Boba Fett, I was so hyped for, but I was pretty disappointed the whole way through. Obi-Wan, I was mostly disappointed. Andor, I found pretty boring. But with Ahsoka, I feel like it was a breath of fresh air almost, where I feel like the story of the show overall was very consistent, but very fast paced throughout. And it felt like I was watching a movie almost. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I thought it was slow. I didn't think it was very fast paced.
Oh, okay.
There were a bit far too many shots of Ahsoka standing there, like just staring into the distance for seconds, and then we pan into like a different shot with very minimal dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, swipe screen, typical Star Wars. But
True. How about you, Harry? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, just about I actually don't mind when they slow it down on shots of the space and the space like battling, but I did find a lot of the spaceship sort of fighting was a bit dulled down compared to some of the movies. Like there would just be like the final ship that we see. Yeah, it's it's a bit not big enough for me for a Star Wars type show. It's meant to be across the whole galaxy. It didn't really, but yeah.
Yeah, none of the, I don't know. I feel like if you thought stormtroopers couldn't aim, also whatever they're flying in Ahsoka, they also cannot aim because no one gets really shot down. I mean, there's a bit in, I can't remember which episode. Oh, or should we save this for the spoiler part?
Yeah, I was trying not to spoil anything by saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of times where people would be standing in one spot, and then the fighters would come in, aim for that one spot, that would hit like 5 or 10 meters to the, to the side.
I forgot what episode it was, but there were fighters that strafed their location, Ahsoka's location, on multiple occasions and missed every single time. So that's a great continuation from the stormtroopers not being able to hit anything, which I appreciated.
Yeah, it's quite like a consistent meme almost, and something that I quite liked in The Mandalorian season 1. There's an episode where, you know, one of our fellow Kiwi directors, Taika Waititi, he directed an episode, and he had a whole 5-minute clip of just these 2 scout troopers just like trying to shoot something on the ground, but they keep missing. It's like right in front of them.
They might as well embrace it at this point, because it's essential to every single Star Wars production ever that the stormtroopers cannot shoot. Otherwise, there'd be some very small franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. There is just to stay on the non-spoiler section for a bit, but we'll quite soon go off into spoilers. I feel like this isn't really a standalone show. I feel like this is a season 5 of the previously animated show Rebels, because a lot of the main characters, Sabine, Hera, Chopper is there. The villain that's potentially, you know, rumored to come back, Thrawn, he's obviously in Rebels. How did you guys feel? Because I don't believe either of you have seen Rebels. Is that correct?
No, I haven't.
How did you guys feel that the show did, sort of introducing you guys then to these characters? Did you feel like you kind of knew them and the dynamic and everything really well, or?
Yeah, I felt like it did. I felt like it established decently well. I thought they kind of told us about the past and what happened with Ezra relatively decently. Not that I was really that intrigued by it, but for someone to know and continue the story and the plot, it was done well.
Yeah. How about you, Harry? Because obviously you haven't seen much of the Clone Wars either.
I feel like it would be more impactful, just the entire experience, if I had have seen the Clone Wars, because a lot of the characters I didn't really understand what their purpose was. Like Hera's son, he seemed to have. I didn't really explain what his connection to the Force was. I didn't really understand that.
Yeah.
So there were some elements where I was like, oh, I don't really understand why this character is, again, as important as they are. But I feel if I had done suitable research, it would have been, it would have been more clear. But luckily, I had you guys to tell me as I was afterwards.
Yeah, we've always got your back, Harry. We've always got your back, right? Now that is the end of our non-spoilers section, because we all haven't really chatted much about like some of the spoilers in the show, like just the 3 of us. I'm excited to get into that. So for those who have not seen Ahsoka and you don't want any spoilers, just a heads up, we're going to go into spoilers. We're going to do episode 1 to 4 first, and then we'll jump into 5 to 8. So I feel like even though it's the same story, I feel like it's 2 different blocks of stories. Okay, so let's get it rolling, boys. So Adam,
already,
I know that you are a Old Republic fan.
Yes.
What did you think of the opening scene of having Baylan and Shinhati come in their starfighter and then just annihilate everyone? What's your thoughts on that?
Excellent. Great.
Excellent.
Phenomenal. Yep. I enjoyed it very much. I think I enjoy people getting annihilated as much as the next person, but in particular this time it was very enjoyable and entertaining, and it lived up to the glory of the Old Republic.
It really did. It really did. I don't know much about the Old Republic. I knew kind of what it was, but it was only earlier this year I started getting really into it, you know, watching the cinematic stuff on YouTube and trying to follow more of the story. And immediately when I saw this scene, I immediately compared to when Darth Malgus first showed up and he's fighting the Dathomirian and that chick Hera. I think that's her name, Hera. I'm not sure. But it was just such a great scene, like just such great action. And I thought that it was such a similar moment. It was so badass. It was so great. How about you, Harry? What did you think of the scene?
I thought the first actual couple episodes were decently forgettable. I don't really remember a lot of them, but I remember I I like the Old Republic because I'd seen it in one of the games for
Mm,
the I forgot the name. It's the most recent Star Wars game. I remember seeing them and I thought, oh, they're it's pretty sweet, pretty cool. So when they
yeah.
showed up, I was like, oh, I vaguely know what this is, and I saw obviously, as Adam said before, watching a whole bunch of people get decimated is obviously.
I feel like they really perfectly set it up their characters as well, because quite often, especially in the Disney Star Wars, I feel like the villains aren't actually that powerful, unless if it's a pre-existing character that's been sent over from the Clone Wars. I feel like we haven't really seen their power, like them being that powerful. Like Snoke, for example, in the sequel trilogy, he was meant to be really powerful, but then he was
Yeah.
killed off pretty quick. Kylo Ren was a bit of a mixture, in my opinion, and obviously in some of the shows, I feel like the villains haven't really been that great, unless if it's like Darth Vader or something like someone from beforehand. But I feel like as brand new characters, Balin and Shin really did set up like their character dynamic and just how powerful they really were just through this one opening scene.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed the two of them. I think they are two of the top 5 best characters probably to come out of the new Star Wars series.
I agree. How about you, Harry? Without diving too much towards the end of the show, with this first, for 4 episodes, what was your thoughts on Shin Hati and Balin as brand new Star Wars characters?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty cool. It seemed like they had a lot of history to them that was really intriguing, and you wanted to
Mm,
know more about their relationship and how they interacted and why they were there. And it was a little mysterious knowing that he was a ex Jedi
yeah,
and that he had converted. So that was really interesting, and it was making me want to learn more about how and why he wants to train this um, Padawan, I guess.
yeah. Something really interesting in terms of Star Wars lore. So some of the lightsaber colors kind of like show what type of character they are. So if it's blue or green, you're like you're a Jedi. If it's red, you're obviously a Sith. Um, Samuel L. Jackson had a purple one. The main reason because he just wanted purple one, and George
Yep.
Lucas gave him one. But Star
Fair enough.
Wars like legend behind it was that Mace Windu tampers with the dark side a lot. You can kind of see in his fighting style. He is very aggressive. He's able to bring himself back into the light. So kind of like blue and red together makes purple. And the sort of Star Wars lore behind Balin is that he was obviously, a Jedi general. He was there at the temple, but he escaped Order 66. So his saber, if you look closely, is actually orange.
Sorry. Continue.
You have a
I
bunch
just
of
want-
reaction.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I really try my best to hold it in, but no.
All good, all good. But his saber, if you look closely, is actually more orange than red. So it's like he's kind of
I
a
didn't pick up on
dark
that.
Jedi. Because
Oh.
definitely throughout the show, he is quite an honorable type guy. Like, you
Yes.
can clearly tell. He does, Temple of the Dark Side does like obliterate people, but it still kind of has that sort of Jedi honorability. About him.
He's somewhat moralistic. There is
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
of ethic around him.
I think they
Yeah.
point out that he likes to keep his promises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he does seem pretty polished as a
Yeah.
character.
And another villain, she is a new villain to the Star Wars franchise. She was in Mandalorian season 2. There was an episode where Mandalorian found Ahsoka, and Ahsoka was trying to fight Morgan Elsbeth, who was the prisoner that Balin and Shin had helped escape from the ship in the opening scene. So Morgan is a Night Sister. What did you guys think about seeing a Night Sister in live action?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. We haven't. I personally haven't really seen much of them, so it was really nice to see a new type of character that can
Hmm.
create power and create weapons that are equal to Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to have a different element there.
How about you, Adam? Was your experiencing a Night Sister finally make it to live action?
Oh, it was interesting. I would have preferred to, I think, have seen maybe more effort put into the difference in choreography of how she fought with her blade.
Mm,
Because I feel
yeah,
like in the Clone Wars, they actually fight with a very distinct type style, a bit like how different Jedis have their own type of fighting style. Like, whereas Ahsoka has her blades, two of them kind of held like as you would a dagger. So she's
yeah,
got a very swift fighting style. Whereas I feel like we didn't really get to see a type of distinct fighting style for her. But nevertheless, it was still really cool to see.
yeah.
The sword that she had was very interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's really cool, but we'll dive a bit more into that a bit later on. So the main sort of plot of the first 4 episodes is that there is a map on this planet which Ahsoka ends up finding, but that map is the only map that shows the exact location where Grand Admiral Thrawn is in the new galaxy. And something that I found so interesting, and they mentioned this in episode 3 instead of episode 4, is that if they make this jump to the new galaxy, even if the coordinates are slightly off, they'll be lost into the void, which is something that I found quite interesting in terms of like hyperspace, like jumping and everything. What did you guys think of Ahsoka using the Force to find the map and everything? Like, did you guys quite like how it was done, or?
I need to refresh myself.
Yeah.
I don't actually
Again,
remember. And which episode was this?
It was
Yeah.
episode 1. So she goes into like this sort of Night Sister temple, and
Yes,
she's
yes,
using the
yes, yes,
Force to
yes.
kind of put like the pieces of the puzzle
Yeah,
together to
that
find the
was.
map.
I enjoyed seeing that because I feel like that lives up to the skill of the Jedi.
Yeah,
We didn't really see much of that from there onwards. We kind of saw Ahsoka having to rely on other people in order to unlock the coordinates of this location where we're introduced to Sabine and other characters, obviously coming in to try and recover that orb.
yeah,
So the fact that she could open it and recover it and absolutely decimate those droids who came after her in that episode was great.
yeah,
I think I disliked her helplessness from that point onwards with it, where she, didn't really have any ability herself to unlock it. So she kind of had to go to Sabine conveniently, who was also her ex Padawan, where they had a touchy relationship.
yeah. I found we'll just move ahead a wee bit. Let's talk about Sabine real quick in these first 4 episodes. I feel like, and this may be a weird comparison, that personality wise, she is similar to Anakin in Attack of the Clones. Personality wise,
Yeah, yeah,
she's quite edgy. She's not really sure what she really wants to do. If that makes
pretty
sense. Obviously,
rebellious.
yeah,
yeah, very,
rebellious.
very
Yeah.
rebellious. Very rebellious. What did you guys think of Sabine in these first 4 episodes?
Yeah, I thought she was pretty good. I didn't realize she was a commander because of how she kept disobeying,
Yeah,
and leaving and not coming back. But then once I found out, I was like, oh, it's clearly she wants something more. There's something else
yeah,
that she wants, and she's struggling to find what it is. So I was like, oh, this is a pretty interesting part of the character.
yeah. Her sort of main reasoning behind everything is that she wants to be reunited back with Ezra. Another character we get introduced to is Hera. So Hera is a general in the rebellion now. Harry, what was your overall thoughts of Hera?
Yeah, I felt like especially in the first couple of episodes, I felt she was more of like just an extra character that's on the
Mm,
cast that the main characters talk to, and they can develop their own. I didn't really know what her purpose was in the team
yeah,
until later on, we properly more, and I understood more a lot about how it's important to keep the relationship with the allies that they have, and to keep all of their resources as important as they are. So until later on in the series where she actually becomes relevant, I was like, oh, she seems just to be flying the plane at this point.
Yeah, there's actually a great scene. It's actually probably one of my favorite scenes in the first 4 episodes, where she's chasing after the space jet that's carrying the last hyperspace like fuel tank that they need for the giant ring, and she's talking to Chopper, trying to get him to place like a tracking thing on it, but Chopper can't find it, so he's blaming Hera. Like if you listen closely, you can kind of actually hear exactly what Chopper's saying. He's like, "Did you take my staff?" And she's like, "No, I didn't." It's there. It's like, yes, you did. And he's just super sassy. Super sassy towards Chopper. And Hera's like, "Make sure you don't miss this time." And he's like, "Make sure you don't miss this time."
That's kind of like the most important thing she did in the whole series, wasn't it? Getting Chopper to place that tracker.
Is that when they perform that maneuver where she does like the barrel roll?
Yes. Yeah, she does barrel roll over. Yeah, no, that's a sick maneuver. Like, where was she for Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
anyways,
she might have been an extra. Who knows?
We do get a really cool scene, and I know that this scene had upset a lot of fans, but we get kind of a Darth Maul type sequence with Shin Hati, where she has the probe droids that finds Sabine, and then she goes off and she fights her. But what really upset fans is the big plot, like I guess jaw dropping moment at the end of episode 1, where Sabine gets stabbed by Shin. Harry, what was your thoughts on Sabine getting stabbed but still being A-okay by the next episode?
Yeah, I think that element is also used along the whole series. The lightsabers didn't seem to do a lot of damage. Now, maybe that's just because Disney needs to keep it more PG, and I understand that. But we used to see hands and arms being chopped off, and now it's like, I get a stab, I'm fine the next day. I get a slash, I just have a minor wound. So I think they tend to leave the more dramatic, damaging lightsaber moves to more impactful moments, but it would be nice to see them littered through the series a little bit more.
Yeah, well, actually, Adam, that is actually a great point where I feel like lightsabers are now being treated more like a sword or a knife than a lightsaber. Because, with the original trilogy, with the prequels, a lightsaber touched you, you lost that limb, or it was like badly scarred. But now I feel like it's just like a cut almost. What's your thoughts on the sort of lightsaber changes Disney has made?
I agree. I think they have essentially nerfed the lightsaber. But it raises an issue with continuity as well, because in that first episode, you see Ahsoka slice a huge hole out of this massive rock slab in order to retrieve the artifact or the orb, whatever you want to call it. And then Shin stabs Sabine. And it's like maybe putting a toothpick through a piece of paper. Maybe it cauterized the wound the whole way through as she pulled her lightsaber out, and she didn't move it up and down or left or right ever so slightly at all. It was a perfect incision straight forwards. So unless that happened, no, I'm pretty upset about it, because we've seen lightsabers cut through many, many, many sturdy things in previous Star Wars. Everything. And maybe Sabine's just built different. She is Mandalorian after all. Who knows? Maybe she's been stabbed in that spot so many times that she's just built up a stab resistance.
I find it quite funny that this happened a couple of times, even in the Obi-Wan show, where we see Reva getting stabbed twice. Once as a youngling by Anakin in the Jedi Temple, and then once again by Darth Vader. And then now we see Sabine get stabbed. Like, poor Qui-Gon. Like, is he the only Jedi character to die by just getting stabbed?
He's just a sissy, I guess, man. Like, Qui-Gon, one of the best Jedi out. No. Unlucky him.
Yeah, and we also get introduced to another character, brand new character, named Marek. Now, Harry, I know I haven't talked to you a lot about Marek, but what did you think of Marek as a whole? He was the Inquisitor-looking guy with a double blade?
I don't. Yeah. Sorry, I don't really remember. Again, I thought the first couple of episodes were quite forgettable. I thought that a lot of the characters were. Oh, I know this character's just going to be a passing character. Or this fight is only here to look cool. It's not like a super duper impactful one. But that's just what I thought while watching it.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll ask you then, Adam, because I know that there's a lot of theories popping around Merrick. A lot of fans online compared his name Merrick to Starkiller, because Starkiller's name is Murrock or something. What did you think about Merrick as a whole?
I thought he was going to turn out to be far more important to the plot than he actually was. I thought they introduced him in a way which made him seem really significant. And the fact that he was the first person to fight Ahsoka as a lightsaber wielder in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I honestly thought he might have been Ezra.
Yeah,
I thought that they could have, I don't know, turned him to the dark side, and the reason he was masked was because they didn't want the Jedi knowing that that was Ezra.
Yeah, and because we do see he's quite a very skilled fighter as well.
He is a very skilled fighter. He went toe-to-toe with Ahsoka for a bit, even though I think in the actual episode you can see slight dominance of Ahsoka during that battle. He still holds his own. I mean, even if it is a he, I don't know if it is a he. It could be a she.
True.
Very masculine she.
Well, because here's the thing. I guess there was no gender, I guess, because when Ahsoka slices them, they turn into a puff of smoke from Night Sister magic.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to think about that. That seemed, I don't know, unless they have something planned, it seemed like a little bit of a convenient escape.
Yeah. How about you,
for having to explain it?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? On Merrick just being quite literally a ball of smoke?
Yeah, I don't really understand how that's going to work. I'm sure since there'll be a second season, we'll get a lot more of answers to the questions that we have. Like again, I didn't think that Merrick in particular was a character that I was like, oh yeah, this is somebody that's going to be throughout the whole series. But I did enjoy watching a lot of these characters on screen. It was pretty nice. And watching the fights, I really missed a lot of lightsaber fightings. I feel like a good lightsaber fight in a lot of the new series isn't really prevalent. Obviously, with Mandalorian being out, not a whole bunch. And again, I haven't seen the Clone Wars, so I thought, oh, it's nice to see a large variety of weapons being used and lots of different tactics being used in the fights, which was quite nice. And in that fight in particular, I like the the jumping through windows and those sort of things was pretty entertaining, and the chase.
I thought, and I'd love to ask you this, Adam, because I know you've seen a lot of the shows recently. I felt like sometimes the fighting choreography is pretty bad. Like sometimes it's a bit hard to watch. But I feel like with Ahsoka, the lightsaber duels were actually quite fun and interesting to watch.
They were more exciting than the others, yes. And it also probably was the most lightsaber fighting filled series, even over Obi-Wan and The Mandalorian.
I think there's probably more fight scenes than the whole sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually break it down. Okay, sequel trilogy. So you've got Finn versus Kylo, which then Rey versus Kylo. So that's in The Force Awakens.
And that was they fight a couple of times, do they not?
Only once.
I think that's when she just gets the lightsaber or something.
Yeah.
And she just first starts using it, and she cuts Kylo.
And then in the last Jedi, you have a fight scene between Rey and Kylo, which I believe that's when Rey gets captured, and then they verse the guards of Snoke. So it's 4. And then in the Rise of Skywalker, you have Rey versus Kylo on the bridge with the water and the Death Star that was there, and then Rey versus Palpatine.
So that's 5.
That's 7 total, I
7.
think. And then you have in the Ahsoka series, Ahsoka versus the guards. Wait,
Yes.
are we counting that? Ahsoka versus the guards?
In the first episode?
In the
Where
first
she's
episode.
recovering the... Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You have Sabine versus Shin in the
Yep.
first episode. Then you have Ahsoka versus Marek.
Yep.
And then you have Ahsoka against Marek, Sabine against Shin, Ahsoka against Balin, and then in episode 5, just jumping ahead, we do have Ahsoka versus Anakin, and then nothing in episode. Well, I guess you have Sabine against the Raiders. Does that count? Which you whipped up the lightsaber in episode 6?
No, I wouldn't say that counts because she whips it out at the end when she realizes her blaster skills are a whole lot more horrible than she thought they were.
Yeah.
Right, true. And then so we have Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine use their lightsabers against the Night Troopers, and then Ahsoka versus Morgan. So we're already past 10.
Yeah, there's also another Ahsoka Balin fight in there.
Yeah, there's also another Ahsoka versus Balin. Oh, and Shin against Ezra and
Oh yes.
Sabine.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That's
like
more
well
than
over 10. Yeah, I can't believe in 8 episodes we get more lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
Than a whole movie trilogy.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
Pretty
Yeah. Now that you
it's kind of sad to actually think about.
I don't really want to think about it. Yeah. Because of my overall rating of the series, that's very sad because I haven't enjoyed it thoroughly.
Something as well that I quite liked in episode 4 is that we see Balin versus Ahsoka, but a special power that Balin has is that he can sort of read people's minds, and we see this a couple of times. He read that Ahsoka still feels regretful about the fact that she walked away from Anakin. So he's kind of using that at the start of the fight, like, oh, seeing what Anakin became, them truly must have left a mark. But we also see, which I feel like not a lot of Disney Star Wars does this, where I feel like the whole fight scene, Balin has the upper hand against Ahsoka.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's not just
definitely.
this fight scene. Even in the other fight scene they had, I feel like while sort of more evenly matched, Balin still technically had the upper hand.
I agree as well. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Harry? With having the main character actually losing.
Yeah, well, I think based on what I've seen, it seems like Ahsoka's really struggling with whether or not killing is an element that she needs. For example, we have that flashback where Anakin is teaching her about to survive, you need to kill, you need to kill, you need to kill, and then she goes and it's like, oh, at the end she ends up winning, and it's like, oh, I don't even need to kill you in the end. So she has this conflict. So I think it's a good way to have her so she's in this down while she's still trying to fully figure out what she wants. She has a clear character that she needs to overcome, a clear character that can best her. So it means that there's a lot of goals and it's kind of like the underdog story.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about probably the biggest talking point at the end of episode 4, where Balin knocks Ahsoka off a cliff, and we see Balin and Sabine standing off. Sabine's got the map; she can easily destroy it. So then they can't find Thrawn, but also they can't find Ezra. And Balin strikes a deal with her that if Sabine comes with them to this new galaxy, no harm will come to her, and she can go off and find Ezra. And she hands the map over. What did you guys think? I'll start with you, Adam. What did you think of this moment where Sabine hands over the map?
That was single-handedly the one thing that made me hate Sabine as a character. It highlighted her as being selfish based on her decision-making skills. I mean, she could have just jumped off the cliff with Ahsoka for all I care about. because she awful. I did not enjoy the end of that episode. I thought Sabine should have taken the L and got shot or stabbed. Although she may have survived if she got stabbed in the stomach again. She might have just gone for round 2, been fine in a day.
How
I mean,
about
she
you,
did
Harry?
have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that she's like, oh, I want to save my best mate, potential, maybe sister, brother, maybe lover.
Hey,
And then she's fully willing to just let a incredibly dangerous general with an incredibly strong army and incredibly powerful allies to just willingly roam around the galaxy again, even though he's stuck on the other side. So it's kind of like, oh, really,
don't you just hate her? Yeah,
Yeah,
really?
you have
I will
to.
admit,
You kind of have to.
I was already a little bit put off by Sabine just based on how rebellious she was and how much and like just how great of a consequence that made. Like, let's not forget, episode 1, she steals the map from Ahsoka and gaps it. She figures out how to unlock it, and then she, fights and loses to Shin
Yes.
and loses the map. And then once
None
again,
of this
she had
would have happened if
yeah.
she wasn't such an idiot and selfish.
Which do you think is worse? Sabine handing over this map, or Star-Lord punching Thanos instead of helping to take off the Infinity Gauntlet?
Sabine.
Sabine.
Yep, Sabine.
Well, we don't know the outcome of Sabine. We don't know the full extent of Sabine's
Hey, at least
action.
Star-Lord's cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
what's Sabine got? Ezra's lightsaber. Cool, it's not even hers.
Right. I do just have to touch up on this. I'm really sorry. I have to touch up on it because episode 4 is where I truly fell in love with someone. Adam, you've seen my fair share of crushes on people, whether it was that pack and save, with my ex, I waited for her for 3 years, but now
Oh,
I
you
feel
get personal often here. That's cool.
yeah, I'm getting very, very personal. I have got officially a new crush. I'd like to announce it on the Not I Take podcast. It is Shin Hati, Shin Hottie, Shin Baddie, all the different titles. I love her, man. She is the future Mrs. Hope.
Yeah, well,
Dude,
she's got Sabine to compare to, so she looks even better. I mean, take Sabine out of the show. She's just another girl with lightsaber, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like she brought a lot to the show.
Yeah,
I really think so. I think there's so much mystery around her and Balin.
There is. I do want to know more.
Yeah, every episode you're wanting to know more and more, and I feel like a lot, especially the action sequences, like when Shin was, in the opening episode, she was pretty badass. She absolutely nailed Sabine in that first episode, and then once again, she loses because Sabine has got rockets.
I think she clearly has some ethical concerns as well around properly killing. Because I mean, if she really wanted to kill, she knew Sabine wasn't fatally injured from that stabbing, even though she should have assumed that was the case because it's a lightsaber. But that's besides the point. We already discussed that.
What we do see.
Well, I mean, most Sith or users of the dark side, even in defeat or even in inevitable defeat, they still just go on a rampage of killing and attempt to win, no matter what, really. Yeah. I mean, she just kind of retrieves the artifact after stabbing Sabine and then leaves skedaddle.
Yeah, no, definitely. How about you, Harry? What's your thoughts on my future wife?
Oh, wow.
One day,
boys. Is she not a bit old for you? How old is she?
Actually, let me search that up.
Oh no.
So am I searching up the actress's name or the character or the character's age?
Well, it depends. Are you in love with the character or the actress?
Yeah.
That is true. That's a good question.
But
That is
no,
a good
just
question.
I'll go for both.
Mm.
both.
Oh, that's
I'll go for
greedy.
both.
Just like Sabine.
Yeah, you
Okay,
go.
I can't find either. Okay, it's fine. I'll ignore it for
Well,
now.
we'll
But
just hope that Good luck
yeah,
with that, Michael.
yeah. We'll just
Yeah,
all
good
I gotta
luck.
say is if it does happen, you boys are the best mans, and to
Oh,
all the
yes.
listeners, you're
Best
invited to
mans.
the wedding. Yeah,
Nice. The
yeah.
Michael
We
Hope.
better have a mean as a bachelor party at Pack and Save Glen Innes. Just Adam's face right now. He's like, yo.
I don't know if I want to be invited to that one. Okay, you can keep the invitation
Yeah.
for me for that one. But the wedding,
It
yeah,
got,
I'll turn it to the
it
wedding.
got lost in the mail.
Yeah, sorry. I had to
All right.
RSVP. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, Harry, what's your overall thoughts on Shin Hati and Baden, I guess, up to this point?
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about how Shin might not want to kill, and that wasn't necessarily what her goal is. And we see that kind of later on when she's talking, and he makes the promise that he won't kill them and he'll let them free. And then the general is just like, no, I'm going to use my words and swindle the promise so you can still kill them, but they also got your promise hasn't been broken. And she is visibly shocked by the fact that her master is just allowing that to continue. And so that is another element that shows that she is also indecisive.
Yeah.
She doesn't know exactly where she stands.
Yeah. No, yeah, I feel like you actually perfectly summed that up. I feel like Shin throughout this whole series doesn't quite know where she fits into everything. And I think especially with the last
definitely.
2 episodes, that also really shows. But we'll talk about that a bit later. Let's talk about probably the one episode all the fans really, really loved. It is a love letter to all the Clone Wars fans, in my opinion. Adam, you're a big Clone Wars fan. How did you feel seeing Clone Wars finally reach live action?
Excellent. More of it would be phenomenal. If we could have live action Clone Wars, I would very much be a fan of that.
Yeah.
I wish there was more. I wish it was the whole episode, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that we had breaks in between, simply just because, for me personally, this episode felt a lot like Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I like that movie. I loved that movie. But I feel like the main story of the episode, that purpose of the episode, was Anakin teaching her a lesson. Because just some background on Ahsoka for you, Harry, because you haven't seen Rebels or all of Clone Wars. At the end of season 6, because obviously Ahsoka's not Revenge of the Sith, so how do you justify her not being there? Ahsoka gets framed for a crime by a ex-Jedi, and the Jedi Council basically just believes it was her. They lock her up and everything. And then they're like, actually, nah, it's all good. You're fine. It's clear this other person. You can come back. And Ahsoka's just like, no. You guys that just screwed me over and didn't believe me one bit. So she walks away from the Jedi Order. And a big question a lot of fans had was, if Ahsoka stayed, would Anakin still have turned? Right? And because there was like because Anakin and Ahsoka are very close throughout the whole Clone Wars, so there was a massive question mark. And towards, I think it's season 3, I believe this happens, but I might be wrong, could be season 4. Ahsoka finds out that Darth Vader's Anakin because they connect through the Force, and Anakin realizes, well, Darth Vader realizes Ahsoka's still alive, and Ahsoka realizes who Darth Vader is. And they have a fight scene, which originally she dies, but Ezra was able to go into the world between worlds and was able to pull her out right before all of that happened. So that's kind of why she's not in the original trilogy either, because it's not really her timeline to mess with, if that makes sense. And having all that sort of that guilt and everything, because obviously Ahsoka knows what Anakin became, that's probably something she's mentally battling with herself the whole time. That, like, she let Anakin turn to the dark side. Like, she probably blames it on herself. so this whole episode, I figured out what the message was. The message was Anakin was trying to push her to actually live. Because we see a lot of the times Ahsoka's arms is crossed, she's wearing like grey clothes. She's sort of she's very doubtful as well. She doesn't really trust the band. She doesn't really trust others or a lot of people. She's not very charismatic. So the whole message of this episode was to live again, right? And I feel like having the breaks in between of everyone finding people was really good because it helped us sort of realize that message a bit more. Like when Hera was trying to find like Ahsoka, whereas if it was just like a whole live action Clone Wars episode, we might get lost in just the fan servicey moments. What's your thoughts on that, Harry?
Yeah, well, I actually really enjoyed that episode. I think it was probably one of my favorites, even though I haven't seen it. I liked the idea that the entire time they were Ahsoka and Anakin were together, it was actual Anakin, and then there would be glimpses and snippets of Darth Vader entering.
Yeah.
So it was like, even though she's talking to the Anakin that she knew, she knows that there's actually an evil side that is lingering there.
Yeah.
So even when they're talking in the Force, it's like you can see that she even herself feels, oh, maybe that is a bit of my responsibility I need to bear.
Yeah. Adam, as you know, I love filmmaking. I went to a film school, and something we've done is we've talked about projects and epic shots and cool sequences. And I feel like we may have gotten two, like they're only very, very short, but two really cool sequences. One with Anakin walking into the smoke, and there's an explosion, and it's him, and he's surrounded by clone troopers. And there's another explosion, and he's Darth Vader.
Yes. Yeah.
And another one is when he's coming back into the world between worlds, and he's got his red lightsaber, but there's a lightning flash, and he's Darth Vader, and another lightning flash, and he's back to Anakin. Back to Anakin. What did you think of Anakin and what he was doing to showing Ahsoka in this episode?
I felt like he could have been more Darth Vader-y.
You
like he could have been more aggressive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he gives obviously in the sequence he gives Ahsoka the choice to either live or to die, and she would have to defeat Anakin or Darth Vader in the process. And like what Harry said earlier, where Ahsoka realizes she doesn't actually have to kill him in order to defeat him. I think it's kind of a symbolic way of saying she's no longer living in her master's shadow. Because I think in that episode, prior to that, when Ahsoka is introduced to Thrawn, he refers to her as Anakin's Padawan.
Yeah.
And then following this sequence with Anakin, he actually starts referring to her as Ahsoka or Tano. So as in she's become her own. She is no longer a shadow of her former master turned Darth Vader.
Yeah. There was a scene actually that I think a lot of fans really wanted to see, but it got cut. It was a kind of like a what if scene where it was a fight scene on Mustafar, except instead of Obi-Wan, it was Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, yeah.
Harry, would you have liked to have seen that scene?
Yeah, it would have been cool, but again, I don't have a large history with Ahsoka. I have more of a history with Obi-Wan, so maybe I'm more interested.
Fair enough. I think it would have been a really cool fan servicey moment, but at the same time, Adam, we've talked about this before, of leave some things that are truly special as what they are, because if you try to change or add stuff onto it, you may end up ruining it. And I feel like that fight scene on Mustafar between Anakin and Obi-Wan is the number one best fight scene.
It is perfect.
In the Star Wars, whole Star Wars franchise, basically. It even beats the old Republic. And I feel like if they remade it, the expectations would be so high that if it did not match or was even better, it would feel a bit disappointing.
I don't think it's possible to recreate something like that. I think they nailed it the first time, and I think it has its value because it is the only one.
Yeah. What did you think as well of Captain Rex finally making his first live action appearance as well?
He just said something and then ran into battle though. Like he just
Yeah.
looked at Ahsoka and went, let's go. And then turned around and then ran into the battle. Oh, I mean, obviously it's not about him, but yeah, it's still cool to see. Really cool to see. That sequence of them in the Clone Wars was, being a big Clone Wars fan, was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole series.
Yeah, me too. But there were a lot of fans upset by this, though, and there's something I want to. I'd love to get to know your thoughts on this, Harry. Where Anakin in Revenge of the Sith is pretty close to his prime, right? You know, he's at his peak in terms of power and strength, especially because he's tampering with the dark side. Especially once he turns dark, like before his fights in Mustafar, he's like, you know, pretty close to max power. And a lot of people thought that Ahsoka had beaten him in that duel, like that they had in the World Between Worlds. But I personally feel like Anakin let her win, for the sake of the lesson. Were you upset like the fans were that Ahsoka kind of won against Anakin on his prime, or did you not mind it?
I think you're right. I think I agree with you. I think it was more of a teaching experience than an actual duel. I think he was pressuring her into making a decision, and then when she made her decision, and it turns out it wasn't one of the options that he gave her. He was, actually, there's a future in you yet. And he says some sort of line like that to her, and it's like, it shows that it's not about who would win, it's about how you go about winning it.
Yeah. And this episode ends with Ahsoka the White. You know, she's gone from Ahsoka the Grey to Ahsoka the White. I love that Lord of the Rings, kind of like a Gandalf transition, where she turns into a more, I guess, powerful version of herself. And she communicates with the Purrgil, the Star Whales, to send them into the new galaxy. But I feel like we were robbed of something, Adam. When she was talking to the Purrgil, I half expected her to become like Dory in Finding Nemo and just start making those really loud, over-the-top
whale noises. Yeah.
Do you want to give your best whale impression? If you were to talk to a Purrgil right now, how would you talk to it?
I'll probably just do what Ahsoka did and use the Force, you know.
Come on! You got to be.
I'd sit there or hum and spiritual talk to the whales. I mean, what idiot would stand in front of a whale and start making whale noises? You okay?
That guy.
Me?
Maybe I just ping sonar at them and hope that works. You know.
How about you, Harry? Give your best whale impression right now. You're chained to the Purrgil. You don't have much time. You got to get to the new galaxy. Give your best whale impression.
Woo! And then the whale would take me to my destination.
Really?
Woo-hoo?
Just woo?
Did you say woohoo or woo?
It's just a noise, and that noise in the whale language means take me to where I want to go.
What about you, Michael? Do
what's
you have
your...
I think it's time we move on a bit.
It's so typical, isn't it?
No, I mean, I feel like you have to do it pretty similar to Dory. You know, we could sort of go the or like that type thing. Not really like a donkey sound, but like
that was really what it sounded like.
All right. Let's move on to what I believe is the best episode in Ahsoka, and this might be a hot take, the most interesting episode in all the shows that have come out recently as a standalone episode. What's your thoughts on that, Adam? I'm talking about
episode 6.
Yeah, episode 6 of Ahsoka. I believe
Yeah.
that is the most interesting episode. More interesting than any of the ones in Mando, Boba Fett, Andor, and wait,
I
and
think there are
Obi-Wan.
two scenes that trump it. One being Luke's return in Mando.
But do you reckon, as an episode, that is more interesting than what we got in episode 6?
Singularly because of that scene, yes. It carries the episode, and I think it's better. But other than that, which other one was I going to say? No, I've forgotten. I might have forgotten. It'll come back to me. But I mean, it was good. I do not think it trumps Luke's return. I think that small, short sequence of him fighting those super battle droids was more interesting than the whole of episode 6 in Ahsoka.
I mean, I'm someone who loved that moment. I think quite similar to a lot of people, I actually did cry when I first watched that, like, because Luke is probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time.
Yep.
And that was obviously such a massive secret. Nobody saw that coming. So seeing Luke come back, like, in his prime, just absolutely smash his way through, was so cool to watch. But I feel like with episode 6, we got so much story behind Balin and Shin, behind like Thrawn and the Night Sisters. We got to see our first live action like Night Sister mothers, which I thought was fantastic. It was spooky. And also for the first time in Star Wars, something that I love is world building. You know, often when I write scripts and stuff, I like to think of the world that we're in, right? That the characters are in. And I love sort of showing the world. And I feel like often with Star Wars projects, we don't actually really see much of the planets or anything. Or sometimes the planets, like I think there was one planet in Obi-Wan where, yeah, it was in episode 3 where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader first sort of met. And it literally just looked like a construction site somewhere in the, like, Central America. But I feel like when we reach this new planet...
I really liked Obi-Wan.
it was definitely a all right show, but I feel like sometimes some of the world building, it's like you could be like, oh yeah, that's probably filmed. Like you kind of tell it's Earth a bit, right? Whereas when we reach this new planet, Peridia, I was so excited the whole way through because like I felt so invested into the idea that we're in a whole new galaxy, into like a whole new world. Like,
yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, the only aspect that made it seem like you were in a different, like an actual different world, was because of those crab people. What are they called? The Newtie or something?
Yeah,
Yeah. I just call them Peridia Ewoks. Or
That's actually more difficult to say than Newtie, so I might stick with Newtie.
I think,
but I don't know. I kind of disagree. I feel like it could have been anywhere. It could have been the same galaxy. I mean, there was nothing really defining about it that said it was definitely a different galaxy apart from Thrawn being there.
Yeah. How about you, Harry? What was your thoughts on this episode as a whole?
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. I preferred the end of the season a lot more to the start. I thought the start was slow, and then it finally got into more interesting elements of the story that I was more interested in. But we'll get into our overall reviews of the series soon. But I have to say, I still think Obi-Wan was better than this.
Okay, but we'll definitely talk about that a bit later on. But let's talk about some of the main highlights, I guess, from episode 6. So the characters first land in Peridia, and they're immediately greeted by 3 mother Night Sisters. So for context, Harry, in the Clone Wars, there was only 1 mother Night Sister. And in this planet, they've got 3. And they felt super spooky. I don't know about you guys, but normally I don't get like a weird vibe or creeped out with movies or shows anymore. But I generally felt a wee bit of spookiness coming from these witches. What did you guys think about them?
I didn't know why they were loyal to Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting as well.
Yeah, I don't know why. Were they simply using him as a means to escape the galaxy that they're trapped in? Are they going to betray him later down the line? Because you'd think, as people as powerful as them, Thrawn heavily relies on those three witches for guidance and to locate various people and locations. Why do they need Thrawn? And why do they like him so much? And why they almost revere him as a god, it seems, by the way they address him, and they say, we are forever loyal or grateful to you and whatnot. So I was pretty intrigued by that. They were pretty spooky. They looked very spooky. They did an excellent job on the costume and makeup for them.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And something else I loved about this episode, which is definitely a main highlight, is Grand Admiral Thrawn's return. We see this huge Star Destroyer come right into where everyone is. It lowers itself down to the main platform, and we're greeted by all these stormtroopers, TIE fighters on the ceiling, and they're all chanting Thrawn with some of the most epic, probably Empire music I can think of. And Thrawn is just casually walking down. What did you guys think? We finally have Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, finally isn't the word I would use to describe that interaction. For me, it was who is this guy? He seems pretty important. But yeah, as Adam was saying, yeah, he seems more important because other people are saying he's important. And there's only some aspects where I was like, oh, he was smart there, or oh, he was doing this that was smart, that shows he's a great general. But there was nothing in particular that showed that he had any sort of, element to him that was particularly unique. I feel like he was just a very, very, very smart, very, very good general, and he had powerful people helping him. So he was more of a leader type than someone I was like, oh, like it's not Palpatine walking down the aisle. It's just a general. It is just a general. So it was a big charade for someone who I was like, oh, he's the general of all these powerful people. He's not the actual power user.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I feel like Thrawn is such a unique character where he's one of the few where we don't see him in a lot of fight scenes. Like Darth Vader and Palpatine, they're very powerful, but we also see them like in the scrap, a few times, and they're able to easily prove why they're such a powerful character.
Yeah.
But Thrawn, we never actually really seen the scrap. He's always, behind the scenes. He's always thinking. He's always planning. He's always sort of outsmarting his opponents, and I feel like there's such a unique ability compared to majority of the Star Wars characters. What's your thoughts on that, Adam?
Well, I mean, I agree, because in many of the final episodes, he does refer to saying, I have been bested by Jedi before, and will never let it happen again. I have witnessed many Imperial officers become bested by Jedi and underestimate them. It's interesting to see that he seems to think of himself as superior among the Imperial and one of the few admirals who could supposedly not fall for a Jedi's tricks or for their plan or their plot. I really liked his introduction. Again, I agree with Harry in the fact that I think for someone who would not have watched the Clone Wars or Rebels, he was questionable in the fact that why is he so important? We know he's an admiral and he has a singular starship, but why is he so much of a threat that we have Hera going and appealing to the Senate in Coruscant and trying to convince them to send a whole fleet against a singular ship? What is so admirable about this admiral that we need to go through all this fuss for? It doesn't really tell us much.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I do think something about this show, which I sort of mentioned earlier, is that this is more like a season 5 of Rebels than a standalone show. Where I kind of feel like, especially because we see a lot of Sabine's story, like Hera, Ahsoka, Thrawn, and at the end of this episode, we finally get to see Ezra again as well. Kind of all the Rebels characters have sort of come back together, basically. But something that I loved about this episode is we get to see more character moments between Shin and Balin, sort of talking about their past and their goals. We obviously talk about it a bit more in the final episode, but Balin is seeking a higher power, something that will stop the cycle of a, republic falls, becomes an empire, falls, becomes new republic, and falls and becomes a first order. He's looking to sort of stop that cycle. Adam, do you have any theories on what exactly he was searching for?
Not a clue, and I feel like that is more interesting than the whole plot of Ahsoka itself.
Yeah.
I'd love to have Balin series of him searching for this higher power to end the cycle of Sith and Jedi and bring proper balance to the Force.
Yeah,
that would be great.
How about you, Harry? Did you potentially have any clue on what Balin was searching for?
No, but it did seem that he put a lot of faith in his Padawan to be somebody that will either be the one to do it for him or allow him to get to this higher power. I think he says a line saying, like, you need to be the one, or something along those lines, where he's putting a lot of pressure on her. So
Yeah,
maybe it's something to do with her Padawan.
Something he says to her, which I feel like was so interesting, was Shin asked him, if he knows about Ezra Bridger, and he talks about how, Ezra's kind of like a rogue Jedi who he's taught like outside of the temple, after the temple had fallen. And Shin said, like me, and he says, no, you were made to be something much greater.
That's what I was thinking of before that line.
Yes, so it's quite. I feel like I made a tweet about this, and I'm willing to say it on this podcast. Balin and Shin, hands down, best characters of the Ahsoka series, and I feel like some of the most interesting characters Disney Star Wars has made.
Hu Yang is the best character of the Ahsoka series. Hands down. We get to learn more about a robot than everyone else combined in the whole series.
True.
The guy is like 100 and something or other years old, has trained almost every Jedi we know of. He's got to be the coolest thing in Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah, hands down. I actually do completely agree with that. I have a personal bias because my future wife is in the same series, so she's always number one for me. But Hu Yang is
it's a robot. You can't marry a robot, so you can put the robot first. That's right.
I mean, some people are into AI these days.
Are you one of those people?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the actress says, and depending on that answer, I might have to go to the AI.
Right. Okay. Well, brilliant, because we're living in the golden age of AI right now. So
exactly.
When it fails, because it will, there will be plenty of AI around to
Adam, quite often you've supported me through a lot of dumb decisions, and I feel like I need your support now more than ever.
There will be an AI so lifelike that you won't even know it's an AI, Michael. I will support that.
Yeah, but with current AI technology, I don't know if that's a supportable one.
Yeah, mate, we'll see. We'll see in like 10 years or something. Once we're all famous Star Wars podcasters, we'll see if there's a Shin Hati AI that we can bring on for like a character deep dive or something.
No, because she'll be your wife, so we can just bring her on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Easy.
You have my support. Yeah.
Let's fast forward into episode 7. So we see Sabine and Ezra finally reunite, and Harry, I was quite frustrated during this little reunion moment because several times Ezra brings up, "How did you get here? Like, I can't wait to go home," and Sabine never tells him that, "Hey, look, I'm here. It's great, but we're stuck here."
Yeah, I thought that whole conversation that they have on top of the turtle shell machine thing was very flirtatious. So when you were saying, "Oh, are they brother and sister or clearly wanting to be together?" I thought, based on what I've seen, that I think they're not brother and sister. But yeah, I was a bit confused because aren't they meant to trust each other and be really close? Why would she not
Yeah.
just tell him, unless she was trying to protect him from something? But would you not want to be open and truthful with someone
I
in that
think it's because
situation?
she had guilt
Yeah.
for her
But
decision that she made, which was stupid.
Oh yes.
So she should feel like that. Stupid.
Oh yeah. I basically put evil on the world just so I could be here with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you would do that for your brother, right? Like, would you guys do that for me as your fellow wine and seafood brother?
I would hope that you wouldn't want me to do that for you. I would hope you would say, okay, maybe my life isn't worth as much as the entire world in destruction. But
Wow.
I would do
How
it for
about-
you, don't worry.
How about you, Adam? You know, we've known each other for quite a few years now. Would you sacrifice the galaxy's safety just to hang out?
Well, think about the logic of that, Michael. Well, like you said, I've known you many, many years, right? Who do you
Yeah.
do you think there are other people I have known many more years than you, perhaps?
Well,
That might be a part of this galaxy that may be destroyed if I pick you?
well, that's the thing. I am a very special person.
Like my mother, my father, my sister.
But also,
Would you?
also, you're safe from the evil that's destroying the galaxy, so it's also a selfish thing.
Exactly. And you get to chill out with me, and we can drink some chocolate milk.
Yeah, right on top of
you
turtles.
didn't tell
Yeah.
me about the chocolate milk.
Yeah, on top of the turtles. We can watch turtle wrestling,
With chocolate milk.
smashing down a chocolate milk.
Only
Would you
Pooh
say-
Valley.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Just because you're in the plug Blue Valley right now, yeah,
Yeah.
I would sacrifice the whole galaxy in order to drink a Puhui Valley with my good friend Michael on top of it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Go buy
Perfect.
Puhui Valley.
Yeah, perfect. I'm so glad that you guys would sacrifice the whole galaxy just to be with me.
Oh, God. Get over it.
I now
Makes me
regret my
emotional.
decision. Is there a take back? Is there a take back option?
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
nice. I'll take one for the team.
But we do see here, though, Shin and Balin team up with these raiders to attack Ezra and Sabine. But we do see this conversation between Balin and Shin, where Balin decides to abandon Shin and send her on her own path because he feels like that their paths are now separating and no longer meant to be together. What did you think of this separation, Harry?
I felt it was more so Ahsoka could just have a scrap with Balin. So they needed to be separate so they could have their scrap, and then we can see the Padawan just going around showing off her skills a little bit more as well, and showing us that because she had a moment in her fight with I forgot what's his name that they're saving on the planet. Ezra.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and she goes to, I could continue or I could run away, and it's like, am I going to abide by these orders or continue with what I was doing? So, but yeah, I definitely feel like one of the reasons they split is so Ahsoka can have her fight with Balin.
Well, I've got some Norse mythology I'd like to explain to you boys. Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's something very interesting. So, Balin's skull and Shin Hati are based on wolves. So, Skull and Hati, right? So, Skull is this wolf that chases the sun, right? And I believe Hati chases the moon. That's why one is dark and one is white. Which, if you ever look at the armor they're both wearing, Balin's skull is wearing dark armor because he's chasing, the black sun, and Hati's armor is grey or a bit white, and because she's obviously chasing the moon, right? And we see even in the show, when they ride their own like wolves or those dog creatures, one is white and one is black. And something that's very interesting is that the sun in the Star Wars universe is the embodiment of the dark side. There is a Clone Wars arc or series of episodes where Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka all meet these Force gods, the light side, the dark side, and the Father, who's sort of a combination of them both. And the Son, he's a full embodiment of the dark side. But I forgot exactly what happens, but he does something to Ahsoka and turns her dark. And so they had to sacrifice the daughter or something to resurrect Ahsoka. So later on in the finale, when you see Balin standing on the hand of the father, you can see the son on the right, but there's no daughter. And so in terms of the sort of mythology, it's like Balin's chasing the sun, he's chasing the Force god, whereas Hati, she's chasing for, I guess, more of just like a higher power almost, or kind of towards the light, if that makes sense. And we do see this moment where at one point she does think about joining Ahsoka at the end of episode 7. What do you guys think on that?
I think she feels like she has to prove herself for some reason. Which is, you know, when Balin talks about them having different paths, it's not necessarily, he doesn't specifically say what her path is, does he?
Yeah. No.
And I feel like that's very much about what we were talking about before, where I don't even think she knows what her path is.
Yeah.
And I think Balin can probably sense in her the conflict. And I necessarily don't think Balin is evil. Being a former Jedi, seeking a higher power to end the cycle, I feel like that's a rather noble thing. I feel like he can also tell, or maybe he thinks he's corrupted her in a sense, because she's not necessarily evil. She doesn't really seem to have the dark side that typical other Sith Lords or other characters do. I mean, I would say that the witch, what's her name?
Morgan?
Yes, Morgan. She is far more evil than both of them combined.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see here, though, Harry, in episode 7, Shin and the Raiders attack the turtles. You know, they attack the turtles, and it's funny because during this whole scene, I just kept thinking like of that meme in like 2012 or 2013, where it's like save the turtles, like that whole sort of like movement. I think it was like about environmental like cleaning or something like that. But
I think they're more like crabs, aren't they?
I don't know. I think
maybe
more pressing matters, you know.
But we see
crabs, please.
But we see a great moment, and I feel like this is Ezra being classic Ezra, where Ezra, he's always been quite cocky, he's always been quite funny. Sabine tries to give him his lightsaber. He's just like, nah, it's yours. You take it. The Force is my ally. And we see like this really great like kung fu Force moves. What did you think of this, Harry?
I thought he's pretty weak in the Force. He did some pretty like small pushes.
I didn't like that. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah, you look in the old movies and they're like choke force lifting people and throwing them across the room, and this is like he has to be like a centimeter away and he can barely push them. So I kind of was like, oh, bro, you should have taken your lightsaber back, man. What the heck?
Yeah. Legit. Especially when it comes face to face against Shin as well. At this point, I was like, nah, he's done. He's cooked. But they're not. They rigged it. They absolutely rigged it and made Shin lose to Ezra. But I did find it quite funny.
It's a cheesy one-liner. Close one.
I did love though when Ezra's like, "Oh, you're in trouble now," because just him and Sabine, and then she just like force pushes him into one of the things, and he just gets knocked out. I did love that, but I will be honest with you, Adam. The Raiders, came in, they sort of get defeated, and the Night Troopers get sent in to help out. But I feel like the Raiders did a much better job than
They
these
did.
troopers.
When you look at that, so two gunships full of these night troopers land and descend on their location. There are like 50 plus of them. There are heaps of them. And how many night raiders were there that rocked up on the
Probably
little
like
dog
20.
things? Yeah.
Like 20
and
max, yeah.
they were actually like accurate with their shooting. They were actually hitting people. The stormtroopers came in, and of course Ahsoka arrives as well. So there's a little bit of a tip of the power scale. Now Ahsoka's here, but they're useless. We we have this great reveal of Thrawn and his army, and they look amazing. I really liked the costume, and the mask of his first in command stormtrooper was really cool. But when you have an army that looks like that and is largely feared throughout the galaxy, and the return of Thrawn would be so devastating, and then he sends in 50 of them and they get absolutely abolished. Doesn't really speak volumes about Thrawn's effectiveness.
Yeah,
So I don't like it.
Absolutely. I rewatched 6, 7, and 8 just before coming on here to do the podcast with you boys. And something that I completely missed it. That when Ahsoka shows up, Shin just goes straight for Ahsoka.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, and I thought, that's actually so badass that she doesn't care about Ezra or Sabine. She just goes full and swinging against Ahsoka. And we see this moment where obviously the Raiders are defeated, the stormtroopers, they gap it because Thrawn tells them to retreat, and Sabine is left all by herself. And she's in a bit of a vulnerable state because I was really thinking about it. Because in my head, when I was watching this for the first time, I was thinking, okay, she's going to try 1v3, maybe gets killed, or they turn her to the light.
Same.
But because she's because she's a fighter. But then I realized she just got abandoned by her master. Probably like someone who she's extremely close to, and the army she was just with literally just gapped and left her behind. She's pissed off. She's a bit like, what on earth is going on? And we see this moment where I think Ahsoka realizes that, and she asks her to come and join. Harry, what did you think of this moment? Did you think Shin was going to turn, or?
No, because there wasn't enough. I didn't think so. No, I think there was definitely more that could have been out of the character. Especially because we didn't necessarily focus on her character as much as we focused on other villains. So I thought, there's still areas and room for her to improve. But yeah, it was good to see that not only do the allies get the choice of where are you going, but also the villains get the choice of where are they going as well. It's nice to see that we can have multiple sides of the same kind of story.
Yeah, but then Shin, she gaps it. She gaps it out of there. And I'll be perfectly honest, going into the finale, which obviously came out, obviously this podcast can release a bit later from when we do the recording. So for us, this came out yesterday. Going into the finale, I was really excited to see what on earth are they going to do with Shin. Because there is a movie coming up in a few years, which we'll talk about more a bit later on, called Heir to the Empire, which is obviously, Thrawn. It's like a Mandoverse film. So Thrawn against most likely Luke, original trilogy gang, and Mandalorian and all that sort of stuff. And I thought that Shin was going to potentially be this dark Jedi that's on Thrawn's side. So maybe she's the one who sort of fights Luke, fights Ahsoka, fights Ezra, fights Sabine, right? But Shin's hardly in the final episode.
Yeah.
And Baylan too. Like, it was one of the biggest disappointments for me where they were, I've already said, in my opinion, they were the best characters in the whole show. There was so much mystery and so much story behind them, but it does not get revealed what the end of the story was. What was your thoughts on that, Harry?
Well, obviously the season ends in a little bit of a cliffhanger, saying, "Hey, get ready for the next one. It's going to be the actual season."
Yeah.
So there's obviously going to be characters that we want to see more of, and
Yeah.
there are some characters that we might not want to see so much more of.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right into the final episode. We see Morgan. I'm not even sure what to call it. Like summoned, ritualized, possessed, maybe,
Indoctrinated.
and yeah, that word. And into a mother, I believe, or a superior night sister role, and she gets the blade from Mother Talisman. I believe that's her name, which that is the mother in the previous galaxy that they were in. Obviously, all of them got killed off by the separatists during the Clone Wars. And I was super hyped for this because I was like, yep, they're setting it up. Morgan, just going to be a massive boss fight. Yeah, there's going to be some big, grand final fight going to happen this episode. I was so excited. And then it just cuts to them just very casually flying very low over the turtles. And I don't know about you, Adam, but they've got no way of going back to their previous galaxy except for Thrawn's ship. Don't you think you should maybe speed things up a bit and just go straight for it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah, but we do see a heartwarming moment in the scene where Ezra, he makes his own lightsaber, but he builds a very similar lightsaber to what Kanan had, which Kanan, he's one of the main characters in Star Wars Rebels, but he unfortunately dies towards the end of the Rebels show, and there was a very heartbreaking moment. So it was quite nice to see Kanan finally get some more not really appreciation, but I guess kind of mentioned, and something we didn't talk about as well. Asajj Ventress finally gets mentioned as a character as well, because up until this point, Asajj Ventress has never been mentioned outside of the Clone Wars show. Yeah. So it was quite cool to see Kanan finally get the same thing as Asajj, like find some recognition in the live action show. But we see 2 TIE fighters come in, and they start shooting at the turtles. And they damage, one of the engines, and Ahsoka and Ezra, they have to kind of, stop the ship from, killing the turtles. And Sabine decides she's gonna, crash their ship into 2 TIE fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Harry, what was your thought on this genius plan?
Genius plan. Oh yeah. I don't really understand. I guess it doesn't, because Ahsoka, if she can just willy-nilly communicate with whales, I guess if they can build some sort of contraption that they can survive in space with, they will be able to get back. Because I'm just assuming Ahsoka will be able to communicate with whales when she needs to, when the Force lets her use it. So it took out the TIE fighters. So I mean,
yeah, but
that's
something I found pretty funny, which I even mentioned this to Adam just before we started recording. After this, Thrawn then plans for a ground assault. But I just feel like if you know that their starfighter's knocked out, just send two more TIE fighters in.
no, they'll just miss.
Yeah, I mean, historically, yeah, in the series, yes, absolutely, they're useless. But I mean, like, Sabine has the option to enter the back gunner of the ship, which she's previously used when they're being chased in previous episodes, and she, nah, why would I use that? Because that's silly. Collateral damage is the way to go. Another example of why Sabine is the worst thing to possibly happen. Yeah.
And
she made one good decision in the whole series. One. That's it.
May I ask what decision is that?
When she decided to stay with Ahsoka. Finally. She finally realizes that, oh my God, we're actually stronger together. And I shouldn't just go off and try to do things willy-nilly by myself, because I actually cause more problems than I solve. Oh.
Oh, would you look at that?
Yeah. Right at the end of the series, might I add, of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Took it long enough. Character arc.
big character development. Big.
We, just to pass. Oh, my sparkle light fell. Hold on. Just to pass forward a bit. Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka all end up in the temple, I guess you could say, or the place where the Star Destroyer is on top of, and they fight off all these night troopers, and it was quite a cool seeing all of them just really kick some stormtrooper ass, basically. And then we see the Night Sisters finally get to use some dark magic. And Adam is a big Clone Wars fan. I know that someone who we both really like is Savage Opress, the Dathomirian, who got, sort of. So basically, Savage is the same breed as Darth Maul, Harry. And he was this really skinny guy, but they made him super buff, super strong. And yeah, they gave him a lightsaber, and he was able to do just like really cool stuff. At one point, he fights off Count Dooku and then stumbles into Anakin and Obi-Wan, fights them off, destroys a whole platoon of droids, and still survives.
That's pretty correct.
He's a legend. He's a legend. And when I saw his Night Sisters doing something, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to make like another Marek perhaps, or maybe another like Savage Opress situation. But instead, we get Stormtrooper zombies. For the first time ever, undead stormtroopers. Harry, what did you think? Zombified stormtroopers.
Yeah, nah, not a fan of zombies. I'm sick and tired of zombies. Surely we can think of something more creative at this point, right? Zombies all the time.
Adam, I did find it quite funny that they were quite worried about them and they were struggling to fight them when they could have maybe just thrown a lightsaber and just used the Force to cut all the heads off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but before they get resurrected as zombie night troopers, there's maybe a 3-second shot of all of them standing there doing absolutely nothing while they previously talked about time being of the essence. And they stand there, and then, the spell is being casted, and then Ahsoka slowly turns around. Oh, that's new. And then it's like, come on, guys. And then they run up the staircase, and then they, shoot all the door controls so that the door's shut. And it's like, oh, you could have done that before they got resurrected. And we wouldn't even have known there were stupid zombie stormtroopers. Convenient, cheap, unoriginal, boring idea of Harry. I'm sick of zombies. It is completely irrelevant. It was just something special to add in for effect.
Yeah, I feel like they had just a little bit.
I thought it did.
Yeah, they had some budget that they wanted to spend, so let's make some cool mystic green stuff and some zombies.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it could have been done like in a really epic way, but I feel like we kind of got like the non-epic way, right? Like maybe if they resurrected like a not a stormtrooper, but someone a bit more powerful who could have had maybe a bit more fight, and then maybe they could have been quite sick, because we do see towards the end they fight off those two more Gideon troopers, which I want to point out, and they're undead, so they can't kill them. And I feel like that fight scene was pretty epic because you couldn't just normally kill them, but with these stormtroopers, it kind of felt like that.
Except they did normally kill them in the end, though. They actually just ended up decapitated and stabbed by a lightsaber, didn't they?
Yeah, but I feel like the build up to that though was quite different. I feel like with these stormtroopers, like some of them didn't even have blasters on them, and they weren't that flexible. Whereas the troopers at the end, they were quite flexible. They were very hands-on as well as using blasters.
Yeah, I don't know about zombies. Now we have zombies as an official thing we have in Star Wars now.
I honestly think that they didn't actually face Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine didn't actually face enough fighting in order to try and get to Thrawn. I mean, like I said, we've been introduced by Thrawn as this very notorious admiral, and he's got zombie stormtroopers, but then the 2 elite troops he sends, he's only got 2 of.
Yeah, but don't forget Morgan is there as well.
Morgan!
Morgan, yeah. Thrawn. Thrawn tells her they need some more time, and that he needs someone to be willing to be left behind. And Morgan's like, yes. I mean, she doesn't exactly say yes, but she's like, sure, why not?
She doesn't seem too
And
thrilled with it.
she's definitely not. And I mean, when you really think about it, Morgan did all of this.
All of that, yes.
Yeah. Imagine
Yeah.
building a giant hyperspace ring and getting 6 of those enormous hyperspace things, which she had to be undercover in the New Republic to build them.
Yes.
She gets
Insane
captured
effort.
by Ahsoka. She needs mercenaries to bail them out. She goes through so much trouble.
She gets captured.
She gets captured. She finds the map, but then the map gets taken, so then she has to steal it and come back. Just to be left behind. What a massive ripoff, in my opinion.
It did seem like a lot of the characters were just used as pawns by Thrawn, even including Balin and Shin.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Thrawn, he really doesn't care. He's just like, I just need to leave this galaxy.
Yeah.
And something they did find quite funny, Harry, was that, with Morgan was standing there alone, he had Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine. But it was set up as a big thing, like, oh no, it's Morgan. But the 3 of them probably could have taken her up pretty fast.
Yeah. I mean, and she only just recently became a powerful
Powerful
guy.
witch,
Does she actually become a witch fully? Or
Yeah,
she
so
does,
she was already a witch, but I
Yeah.
believe they made her to a mother of some sort, or like a true Night Sister warrior.
Yeah.
Like the higher level or
So there's probably a lot of stuff that she doesn't even know how to use, or how it's not mastered yet. So pretty easy.
But I will admit, I'm going to say this: the fight scene between Morgan and Ahsoka, the best fight scene in the whole series. Now,
Really?
the choreography was great. It was so great. The music, it felt epic. Apart from Sabine actually getting stabbed but still surviving, Morgan destroys one of Ahsoka's lightsabers.
Oh, that's right. She
yeah,
does.
that's true. She does.
So I feel like the action in it was actually really good.
Why is she so flexible?
I don't know. She was jumping
It's
and
like an old
bouncing and
lady.
rolling
Yeah.
around. Yeah. It's like that she's literally, she's a witch.
Yoda.
Maybe she possessed herself.
Yoda's
But
an old
Yoda's
guy.
just small though. He just
Yeah.
flips around. He's not flexible, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
He's
that's
just
true.
so small it looks like he's flexible.
He's just small and fast. Yeah, he just
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was a
And-
surprise. It was interesting, yeah.
But in this final fight scene, though, it's funny. I was watching this I'm going to give a massive shout with my boy Liam. We're watching the finale together, and Sabine gets pinned up on a pillar by one of these zombies, and she tries to force grab. And when she force grabs the lightsaber, it's probably the loudest I've ever heard Liam scream. He was so mad that someone who hasn't really had a lot of force training in the show, she had that one moment in episode 3, but apart from that, nothing really else that she's done force wise to prepare. And then she makes 2 massive things happen by force grabbing the lightsaber, being able to kill those 2 stormtroopers, and then being able to force push Ezra up onto the Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Adam? Because very clearly you are a massive Sabine stan, so I feel like
That was absolutely mental, obviously. Because, and the fact that Ezra's okay with it as well. He's like, oh, yeah, I just saw, you've been training. That's all we know is about the extent of your force abilities. I've been training.
Yeah.
When she says that, she's referring to mostly lightsaber skills anyways, not even force abilities.
Yeah.
The fact that Ezra's just like, yeah, you push me up and I'll pull you up is just kind of gnarly to me. I feel like he shouldn't have even considered taking her because she probably would have been a hindrance to him anyway.
I love how that's like, the one thing you bring up. It's not like, is she actually going to be able to force push me up all the way? It's just, nah.
Is she going to be useful anyway? Should we even consider bringing her? No, probably not, because useless. Pew pew lady. Pew pew Mandalorian lady who doesn't know what she wants to be.
But we do see Sabine. She stays behind to help Ahsoka. And
Good decision.
Which is a good decision. It's a good decision. And Ahsoka kills Morgan. Harry, what did you think of Morgan being killed off here?
Well, when she wasn't going onto the ship when leaving with them, you're kind of we knew she probably wasn't going to be hanging around for much more time. So, but she's pretty cool. I don't know why we just got this whole evolution of her just to in the same episode she dies. So it's like,
it's like an arc when you like upgrade the melee damage statistic just to waste the dinosaur and like to like sacrifice it.
You're using arc as a reference.
Yeah. I mean, I have to.
What about for the people that have not played Ark, Michael?
Yeah.
Look, quite often in this podcast, I just drop random things and people just have to deal with it.
I'm a big fan of Minecraft references because most people have played Minecraft. So can you please try a game but Minecraft?
All right. It's like when you tame a dog and you bring it with you into a cave system.
Right, even though you know it's just going to fall off and then die.
It's just going to fall off and die. Or if you start getting attacked. No, you're not. The Nether. It's like bringing a Minecraft dog into the Nether and you're searching through the fortress.
Yeah.
You know it's going to die, but at least it'll help you.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you got it.
At least it'll give you like those 2 seconds of time against the blaze rods.
Yeah.
Do the dogs provide meat?
No.
So they're useless once they're dead. Great.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Morgan dies. I feel like she was a great villain in Ahsoka. And we get some cutaways. And I want to really talk about Baylan really quick. So we see Baylan. He is standing on a mountain statue of the father of the Force gods. And we get a really cool shot where we have the son on the right. And the daughter's meant to be on the left, but her head is missing. And that's because Anakin used the daughter's life force and Ahsoka to sort of save her from the darkness in that Clone Wars arc. But they're all facing one way, and there's a bright yellow light, and like in the far distance that Baylan's staring into. And I've got a very strong theory on what that yellow light is. Are you guys ready to hear it?
I'm ready to hear it.
Abeloth. So I know that you guys probably haven't read any Legends comics or anything like that, right?
No.
So basically, I haven't read the Abeloth one specifically, but I have read other, Legends comics. But from what I know about Abeloth, she is the mother of the Force gods, but she was not immortal like them. She was mortal. And so she selfishly drank from the youth fountain to try and make her immortal, but instead it turned into this horrible, like, demon, like, pretty much the extreme version of the dark side, right? And the son, the daughter, and the father basically outcasted her, like, just exiled her, right? And I think the thing that's been calling to Baylan this whole time has been Abeloth. And, I mean, I don't know much about Abeloth to know what she can actually do, but I feel like maybe she finds a way to possess Baylan, or maybe the original plan was to possess Shin, perhaps, since Abeloth was a female, and that could be like her physical form to really like cause some shit, basically, cause a lot of trouble. And I think that's what the yellow light is, because you have the father, son, and assumably the daughter, all standing together and facing towards this yellow light, which I think is the outcasted mother. What's your thoughts on this theory, Harry?
It's pretty interesting. I think I'm obviously ignorant to the wider not so theatrical Star Wars characters. So there's probably a lot of them, but it would be really interesting to bring more characters from more niche elements of the whole universe and more
Hmm.
characters that we haven't seen but already have stories. We don't necessarily always need to make a brand new character. We can say, hey,
Yeah.
we already have this really cool character that's already written into the story. Let's find a way to keep that character, alive and make him maybe a character in a movie or
Yeah.
TV series.
It's quite hard because I know that Starkiller has been someone that the fans want to see, but when you try to fit him into canon, it just does not work because he's way too powerful, and because he's also like the apprentice of Darth Vader, but Darth Vader isn't meant to have an apprentice, so just story-wise, it won't make sense. But it's also how do you bring in a old character from Legends or from a game, but nerf them so they're not as powerful? I feel like it's kind of like a disservice to that character almost.
Yeah, I'd dislike if they did that. I'd prefer to
Yeah.
leave him as is.
Yeah, yeah. But something very interesting, and I actually made a tweet about this. So I love symbolism, right? I love the whole idea of foreshadowing symbolism. And in the 5 seconds we see of Shin, she rides up to the Raiders' camp and she holds her lightsaber out, which could potentially mean she's going to slaughter them. Or I personally think it's sort of like, hey, remember me? My master and I, we worked with you guys. But something that we do see, though, throughout this whole show, she's wearing that grey white armor, right? And that potentially symbolizes her, with the name Hati, the wolf that chases the moon, who goes into the light. But then in this final shot, we see she's got a dark poncho covering that armor. And, originally I was just thinking, oh, it's just because she's broken and she's just super vulnerable. Everyone's literally abandoned her. But the more I look into it, right? She's been abandoned by her master. She was abandoned by the stormtroopers. She got made like an absolute fool, basically, with fighting Ezra because he was just using the Force against her. And so she must be feeling totally embarrassed. She's obviously done like a lot of fights and stuff because she's very capable as a warrior. And I think that having this dark punch around her really does symbolize the fact that she's going to go full dark side now. What's your thoughts on this theory, Adam?
I'd like to think that her holding up her lightsaber was kind of a warning, and she was absolutely going to go and massacre them in a blood-fueled rage because she was so embarrassed and enraged that she lost and been abandoned and is embarrassed. I would love for that because we haven't seen one of those since like Maul.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And I really think we require one of those because Balin's clearly not that guy. The rest of them probably couldn't fulfill that role, and she's kind of just got that crazy look about her. She kind of just looks like she could just snap and become an evil as Sith Lord.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I hope so too. Just while we're on topic of Balin and Shin, let's talk about potential season 2 with them, or where we think their stories are going to end up. I think Shin is going to be the leader of the Raiders, because Ahsoka and Sabine, obviously they get left behind on this planet as well. Sabine and Ahsoka, I mean. And I think Shin is going to be the big bad villain to them. And I feel like because she's going to embrace the dark side even more, that she might actually properly stand a chance against Ahsoka.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, so Shin doesn't really know that they've been left behind at that current time. So you think that she's going to discover that they have been left behind?
Yeah.
And do what you said, right? Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Harry? Have you got any thoughts on Shin and where her story may take her for potential Ahsoka season 2 spin-off show?
Yeah, based on what we saw, she was definitely raising it, but I think because it was kind of horizontal, so maybe it was more empowering and like she was going to ally with them.
Yeah.
But if we have another character that's on the line and then just snaps and then goes dark side, even though Anakin was turned slowly as well by Palpatine, it's kind of we're gonna have another powerful character that has changed. That was I guess she was already evil. I would like to see an evil character turn into a good character,
I think she will.
and not like a Thanos type where it's because he thinks it's good. It's good. It more like an actual evil character that realizes their actions and becomes a good character. We haven't really seen much of that.
What about Kylo Ren?
Does he become a goodie?
He does.
Oh,
He does.
he does. He
He
sacrifices
Yeah.
himself right at the end.
And then they kiss,
Oh,
But
ruining
see,
the whole
again,
thing.
I just forget all three of those movies. They're just void.
fair enough.
Yeah, all I remember is
You
that
know,
they kissed.
we talked about the brother sister thing earlier, but something I just want to really quickly point out. Rey calls herself a Skywalker at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and Kylo Ren is a Solo. Which Princess Leia is a Skywalker. She married Han Solo, so technically they were cousins and they kissed.
Yeah.
What is it about Star Wars and incest? We've had Luke and Leia kiss. Now, bear in mind, they did not know that they were siblings or twins, I should say. And then now we also had Kylo Ren and Rey.
Yeah.
These are some.
I like to think
hardcore
there is
Star
no
Wars.
ulterior motive, Michael, and it was
Yeah.
simply a coincidence.
Yeah.
There was nothing more to look into.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because we
Yeah.
can deep dive into it if you want.
No, I'm hoping that's the case. No,
Well, I mean-
let's move on.
I mean, it depends. If
Deep
you think
dive
that
another
the romance in Ahsoka isn't a romance and they're actually brother and sister, then maybe there's a trend going on here.
Maybe.
The-
But
for
I'm
Ren.
just saying, we've got these parallels going. We've had
I think
Luke and Leia, we've had Kylo Ren and Rey, and Sabine and Ezra. What-
Shin is gonna get turned to the light side and become a Jedi once she's probably gonna have her few many run-ins with Ahsoka and Sabine. Ultimately, she's probably gonna realize she can't defeat them, and she's probably gonna become jealous or envious, or she's gonna desire the type of relationship that Ahsoka and Sabine have as they develop their relationship, being the only two people there. You know, Ahsoka's likely going to train up Sabine, and in the process, they'll have their run-ins with Shin, and Shin's going to probably want to join them, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And for Balin, what do you guys think a potential season 2 might end for him and his story?
Will he find the power force god? I kind of, because I haven't seen or heard of much about the force gods and how truly powerful they can possibly be. So I kind of hope we don't just introduce something that's can be used by anybody and can be interacted with, and it's just so incredibly powerful it can do immense crazy things. But
Yeah.
I like to think it'll be a little bit of a Achilles flying too close to the sun type thing, where Balin will find what he's looking for, but it'll drive him mad and it'll consume him.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think he finds Abeloth, she possesses him, and basically he
Ceases
dies.
to exist.
Yeah, he ceases to exist. And I think maybe we could see an emotional fight scene between Balin's dead carcass and Shin.
What are you going to say it like that?
I don't know, man. Look, it's
You said we're trying to keep
yeah.
this
Possessing,
PG.
yeah.
Say carcass.
Possessing.
And to I guess we'll move back to the characters. We talked about Ahsoka and Sabine staying on. How do you think they're going to get back into the main galaxy, or if they will ever get back to the main galaxy? Do you think that they will end up going
Space
back?
whales.
Harry's already mentioned the space whales, which I think we all can agree is probably the most likely answer given how they got there.
Yeah, or unless they
Is
get
there
rescued by
another?
somebody else, like somebody else random also happens to have a galaxy jumping device and goes to
Yeah.
rescue them. But
Maybe the Mandalorian. He's quite well known for just appearing in other people's shows. he he turns up for Boba Fett and has like 2 whole episodes about him.
Maybe Grogu leads him to them through his force powers.
Well, let's not forget there was one scene in the Mandalorian season 3 premiere where Grogu sees the Purgle flying in hyperspace with him.
Mm.
so
Yeah.
maybe
So who knows? Who knows? But we do have 2 real great moments in the finale with Ezra finally reuniting with Hera and the New Republic, which I was trying so hard not to laugh because
Is that a great moment? That's what I was gonna say. Is that a great
I mean
moment?
it's a great moment for Rebels fans, I guess, because now Ezra he's back, he's there, he's going to help out.
She was
But
mortified to see him.
yeah, because he comes out
She's
as
like,
a
what the heck?
stormtrooper. Yeah, he comes out as like a stormtrooper, and he doesn't even take his helmet off till like way too late. If I was there, I would have just shot him.
Yeah, he doesn't even say anything either. He just goes over to the droid, what's his name, and
Chopper.
pats him on the head. Chopper, yeah. And
Yeah.
then proceeds to take his. However, it
And he
seems like
says, "I'm
Chopper knew
back."
who he was though, like a dog. Like, you know,
Yeah.
senses it's his owner or something.
Yeah.
You could smell him. The droid
And-
can
I don't-
smell him.
How does he manage to land on Coruscant as well without getting absolutely shot out of the
Oh
sky?
no, he landed in the ship, not
Ship,
Coruscant.
Yeah. He's on like the ship.
Ah, right. And they allow
But
that.
still, yeah.
Yeah, because
I
I
don't
mean, you feel like they would have learned the lesson from the first time. You know, in the opening episode, they just let a random ship, like an old Jedi ship, land in, and then everyone dies, and
Yeah.
the prisoner who they could not afford to lose,
Exactly.
like gaps it, and they do it once again.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah.
Yeah, but another great ending we see is Thrawn's ship is arriving to Dathomir, which I think is personally one of the coolest planets in Star Wars. It's the planet where Darth Maul came from, Savage Press, the land of the Night Sisters as well. I think in all those like coffins they had, it's either dead Night Sisters or it's some kind of like army, like, you know,
Zombies.
like zombie stormtrooper army. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Boring.
Zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd hope it wouldn't be
I
zombies.
like to think they're dead Jedi.
Did Jedi?
Yes, and I think that the sisters or the mothers, whatever you want to call them, will use a similar type spell to resurrect them and control them,
That would be pretty
forcing
sick.
them to fight against their allies.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
That's what I hope
Yeah.
happens, because we need a bit more possess to the.
Because right
Seems-
now they've got no Force use or lightsaber holder in their group, and
No, they don't.
in the same universe where, well, I guess same galaxy, we have Ezra and Luke, who are both, you know, like, I mean, then again, they don't realize that Ezra's aboard, and I guess when you think about it, Thrawn may not know Luke exists.
Yes, but it seems like Thrawn very much has some sort of a trump card and is so fixated on that cargo that he is willing to let Ahsoka and them lot get so close to entering his ship that you know he needs to make sure he gets all the cargo. He doesn't care the cost. He needs to get all of it. So it's clearly very important to him, and it's clearly so powerful, whatever it is that he possesses, that he only needs his one ship and his small band of night troopers, which is probably less than 10,000 or something.
Yeah,
far less, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. No. And that's the whole show. Harry, you said you had some thoughts on the season overall. What do you rank it? And did you enjoy the series?
Obviously it's a Star Wars movie. It's fun. It's meant to be. You're meant to watch it and enjoy it. So I'd say, as far as my enjoyment factor, I did enjoy it. I like lightsaber fight scenes. I like the sort of fantasy elements and all that. comparing it to the other Star Wars movies and the other Star Wars content I've seen, I don't rate it as highly. I would put it, if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably say like a 5. It's pretty
Okay.
mid tier for me. Maybe a 6 because there was actually a lot of good lightsaber fightings, and I
Yeah.
can see that they're really trying to make the choreography quite real. I feel like even when they're holding the swords in this, they even trying to make sure that the swords aren't getting close to their clothing or close to their
Yeah.
bodies, so that it looks like they're more like mechanically skilled with the weapons. But yeah, so overall, I'd give it probably about a 6, maybe like a 5.5.
Man, how about you, Adam? Overall ranking of the show?
I'm gonna be generous.
Ooh.
I'm also gonna give it a 6,
Okay.
solely because of the references to the Clone Wars and the fact that it was visually pleasing.
Yeah.
As slow as it was still entertaining.
Yeah.
Although I thought it was a little bit slow, there were moments of the pacing which were good, which made it humorous. Like when you said that Ezra, was speaking to Shin and fighting and said, it's not looking too good for you, and he just gets absolutely demolished and sent into one of those crab turtle thingies. There are moments like that where it's good. There are moments like that with Hui Yang where it is humorous, and it kind of takes away from whatever mission it is they're doing, and it creates a sort of wholesome environment for the characters that I value. Big fan of the costume. Thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought there was a little bit of unoriginality when it came to the interior design of some of the spaceships.
Yeah.
Some of them were a bit boring. There was some of it that looked rather Star Trek-esque. Overall, I enjoyed the character of Ahsoka. Sabine largely makes this score so low. If Sabine wasn't even a character, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8. I hated
Okay.
Sabine.
Yeah. All right, I know exactly what to get you for Christmas: a action figure of Sabine.
Oh gosh.
Could be very
Just look at his
easily
face.
destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah, just throw it outside his car. Oh, I've dropped the
I'll
light.
tell you what, if you do that, I'll live stream it. Me destroying it. I'll take it to one of those like release stress rooms where you can smash things.
Smash that, yeah.
I'll bring Sabine.
Just take it out back in the seafood department and use all the different knives.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, chuck it in the baler, eh?
Yeah.
On a cable crusher.
Get it pressed.
I thought it was a great show. I personally give it an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed the story, loved the characters. I was intrigued every episode. I was invested every episode. I feel like episode 7 I enjoyed more on a rewatch, knowing what's to come in the finale and like actually looking at everything specifically. But overall, still kind of a meh episode. The finale I was a bit disappointed by, but someone's got a nice juicy car going past the place. But let's talk about some projects that are about to come up. So I believe the next 2 shows, Star Wars shows that's meant to be coming out, is the Acolyte show and Skeleton Crew. So Skeleton Crew is, we don't have much information on what that show is. All we knew is that it was meant to come out this year, but the actors and writers strike that occurred, it's pushed back a lot of projects. And we also had an Acolyte show, which is an origin story about the Sith. It's set before the Phantom Menace and how the Sith sort of came about and everything, which I feel like that could be an interesting show. Adam, what's your thoughts on that, since you're a Darth fan?
I'm skeptical because it's Disney attempting to explain one of the most ruthless and inherently evil elements of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Will they do it justice? Will they, like sugarcoat it and make it not as aggressive and like horrifying? Because I mean, the whole point of the dark side and the Sith is that they have been overcome by power and greed and desire for more power. They
Yeah.
need to be mad in a sense for power.
Yeah.
We can't have any of this PG kind of, characters not being rage filled, not wanting to massacre a whole bunch of people, not having gone through, they need to have gone through something as heartbreaking, as traumatic as Anakin.
Yeah. Or General Grievous.
Yeah, or General Grievous.
Yeah.
Very comparable. It's a very sad story, Mr. Grievous.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like some of the best Sith characters, like even Darth Maul, the story of Darth Maul is terrific.
Tragic.
It's heartbreaking, but it's so epic at the same time. It makes him such a hatred-fueled character.
I mean, we all love a villain that has an insane backstory.
Yeah, that's why
adds so
Darth
much.
Vader is one of the most recognizable villains
Of all
in
time.
film history and of just all time. Period. Statement. Like, you search up top 10 villains, he's like easily top 3.
He is the epitome of an evil villain. That guy, along with the Joker.
Yeah,
exactly. Joker's pretty evil.
And there was a show, the Boba Fett season 2, the Book of Boba Fett. But apparently that's been cut, and I'm a bit sad that's been cut. And the reason why, which Adam, this might blow your mind, that the rumored villain for the Book of Boba Fett was Mace Windu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I feel like seeing Mace as a villain while watching a story from an OG villain's perspective would be very interesting.
It would be.
But at the same time, they ruined Boba Fett's character in the first season, especially having those emo kids there with those stupid bikes.
Those bikes were really cool.
No, they were stupid. If you can't like.
Yes, they were. They could have replaced them with 3 droids, and the droids would have been better.
Exactly. So while I'm sad we don't get to see Mace Windu as a villain, I'm kind of glad that they did cut the show because I'm not sure how good it would have been. Mandalorian season 4. Apparently that's going to happen because the end of season 3 is working with the New Republic, and there's been 3 movies announced. So all of these were announced at the Star Wars celebration that happened in April. So 3 movies we're getting. I forgot the title of this one, but it's set 100 years before the Phantom Menace. It's not the Old Republic, sadly, but it's but some kind of like ancient Jedi potential Sith type thing. Then we're getting a Rey movie because we all love Rey Skywalker.
Okay, skip.
Yeah, skip.
9 to 15 years after the rise of Skywalker.
Skip.
But probably the most interesting movie, which I think a lot of fans are really excited for, especially after the Ahsoka series, is the Mandoverse film Heir to the Empire, which is going to be the Infinity War type movie for all these different shows. So it's going to have the Mandalorian characters, the Boba Fett characters, Ahsoka characters, the original trilogy characters most likely, all teaming up against Thrawn. And there is a comic book trilogy called Heir to the Empire, which is the Thrawn trilogy, and that is set after Return of the Jedi, with Thrawn and the remains of the Empire against Luke, Han, and Leia. I was personally a bit worried for this movie because I feel like you need to have the original trilogy gang in there, especially because it's so soon after Return of the Jedi. But with Ahsoka, Mandalorian, the Rebels characters I've brought in, I was a bit worried that maybe the original characters would just be left out. But now when I think about it, with Ahsoka and Sabine being stuck in Peridia, they could very easily have Luke, Han, and Leia come into this. What's your thoughts on this, Harry?
Yeah, I feel like if they were going to do that, it would be more of a cameo and like a quick one. I don't think because they can't get the original looking characters now unless they're spending loads of money, and it's just not worth it to get a CGI version of Luke Skywalker back.
Yes, it is.
It
Not
is.
not for
Very
a whole
well.
movie. I don't think
Yes, it
for
is.
a scene.
it
I don't
is.
think they'll ever do that. I think it's too expensive.
Star Wars fans,
It's Disney.
like myself, have all wanted to see Luke in his prime, as he is touted to be canon the most powerful Jedi.
Yeah. Even more powerful than Anakin.
It is worth
at this
it.
time.
Even more
Yeah,
powerful than
oh,
Anakin.
yeah,
It
but
is
you would
the
want,
most
like-
worth it thing there could possibly be for their franchise. But they won't
Yeah.
do it.
No,
It's
they're
too
absolutely right.
expensive. It's too expensive to
I-
make a whole movie with them.
I think the biggest mistake for
Hey,
the
if they can
sequels,
make 5 rubbish series, they can spend that money on a
That's
good
true,
one.
though.
because I feel like a mistake they made in the sequels was bringing back the original trilogy characters and then poorly killing them off or not giving them the character they deserve. They kind of ruined Luke's character. They did that stupid thing with Princess Leia where she Mary Poppins her way through space.
Yeah,
in The Last Jedi. And obviously they could have Han Solo. I feel like just leave the original trilogy gang out of it. And if you're going to bring them in, make them the main characters. Because to this day, I mean, obviously, some people argue that maybe the prequels could be better. But I personally feel like people like the prequels because of the Clone Wars. But the original trilogy, nothing will compare to that. Which is so interesting because that was the first stuff made. And that was in the 80s. So how can the modern technology of 2023 not be able to make stuff like nearly as good as like the original?
It's because
trilogy?
it's about money now. It's not about making
is.
a good cinematic experience.
But should
True.
they invest the money in something that will generate the money?
Yeah.
I mean, if they
When
make it good enough,
yeah.
if they make it good enough, it'll blow box office through the roof. It'd be insane.
I think what they should try to do is instead of focusing on trying to get as many different audience members as possible, make something that Star Wars fans will be more eager to watch. Make it something
like
that
prime Luke Skywalker for a whole film in CG.
for a whole film, all in
I don't
CG.
care how much. I don't
I'm
care.
so keen. Yeah, I
Bring it
think
back.
It would be
Edge
super
Empire
cool. if it
movie
never happened.
make Luke main character.
I
Yeah.
just would never happen. I feel.
Well, I mean, now that all of the cool characters have been killed off, who else can it be?
Except for Shin. Except for Shin Hope. Don't forget my future. But unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of the podcast. Adam and Harry, thank you guys so much for coming on. Adam, I've wanted you to come on before, but we just couldn't make it work because of scheduling for Traders New Zealand. So I'm so glad you were finally able to make it for Star Wars.
Yes, you're welcome.
And
Yes.
you, Harry.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you, Harry, you're part of the Below, at Pack and Save, with Y, Sade, and everyone. No context for that, by the way.
Yeah. Context.
No context, no context. The managers of Pack and Save will be after me. So, yeah. I just want to say thanks so much, Harry, for coming on board.
Don't worry,
Even though you literally watched the finale of Ahsoka literally right before we hit record.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for coming on, as well as you, Adam. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys. You're my boys. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
No worries at
No
all.
worries.
We'll do it another time, eh?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely
keep to
will.
it
Definitely
again.
will. If you liked our Star Wars, Ahsoka recap, please leave a like and a comment. I would love to be able to do more of these. So let us know potentially what type of sales videos you would want us to do, or just more in general Star Wars chats. Who knows? I'm officially on Twitter now as well. Chris has forced me to be on Twitter, and I believe it's Mucky5524136. I don't know why I have all those numbers. I made in like 2013.
You're not just gonna like pop it on the screen or something for them, so they can.
I mean,
they don't have to keep rewinding
that. I've got Shimbadi as the cover photo.
Hold it steady. Why do you have so many numbers?
I don't know.
Oh, who's Queen Emily?
Oh, Queen Emily. Oh, been exposed.
Oh,
I've made some tweets about Ahsoka, so definitely check those out. We've got 4 likes, baby, from a superstar.
let's go. Famous guy.
But but in all seriousness, if you're on YouTube's channel, please hit the subscribe button. We've just reached over 2K. I will be back to cover Traders Canada with Hamish. We've got a couple more Traders New Zealand deep dives coming out as well, which that's very exciting. So stay tuned for that. If you like the video, please hit the likes and subscribe button, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you for coming. Bye.